Okay, so very good afternoon. I know that you must be tired by now because it must be a long day for you, and it's the last hour of the session, right? So I promise that I'll make it short and sweet in that way. And welcome, my dear students, my fellow colleagues, and chief guest of this station or event. Okay, so I'm really thankful so just inform that for this event and for this invitation actually, so that Department of Media Studies actually invited me here. And specifically when I was going through the website and I was thinking that's why I've been here. So what I'm going to tell, because I'm not, basically all of you are expert. You know better than me that what is media and what you are doing, what are the, kind of core of your research or study or practice or experimentation, whatever you are doing, and your theory, definitely. Then when I was navigating and I saw a lot of kind of, overlap, lot of commonalities that I hate, that is information arts and information design practice. And we have a lot of common challenges because for us, it is not only practice, but it is also the communication, how you are going to communicate, how we are communicating our people, how we are communicating more than human word, and how we are communicating with our immediate neighbors, maybe human, maybe non-human. So that I took the challenge for this discussion, and as our MC of this session nicely introduced me, thanks for that. And I have a lab, and in that lab, since last 6 years, I have been working with many communities, many spaces. So I kept today's stuff on screens. So you can think about the different notes from the tip. Can you go to the next slide, please? So quickly, my journey as an academician. So I'm a geographer basically. So I have been in many places during my UG and PG time in Himalayan region, in other spaces, because normally from West Bengal we have to go to Himalayan region, see the cultural and social kind of tension, dynamics, and know the topography because you are a geographer. So you should know the geology, climate, soil, flora, fauna, and everything. That actually fascinated me very much. That when we are going somewhere, so we could know not only the kind of the viewpoints, the fantastic scenario, but also the culture. We could respect the culture and how people respect their nature. What are kind of the connectedness they are bringing. So that's how I come to know to indigenous knowledge, and that's how I come to know how we could nurture that kind of relationship, how we could go with that kind of understanding. So that's why I say I'm a twinkle collector, because I believe in small moments, small anecdotes. Sometimes you feel like you have been there in community and you are wondering. I have seen with my students that they are wondering that what to do, how to approach, but sudden thing trigger, like something happened and some very kind of phrase or some kind of trigger, some kind of personal attachment with the person whom they are meeting, then they open up entire dialogue, entire kind of narrative. So quickly, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So quickly, in our department in information design, information arts and information design practices, we don't give the solution because normally people have an understanding or tendency that coming from art and design background, when they should give a solution, but we are very, very transdisciplinary. We say we are media agnostic, so we don't have a particular medium. So we play with the medium. We play with different kind of, maybe it would be film, it could be artifact related to Zen or storytelling, illustration. It could be anything. So we simply open up the dialogue. We simply talk about what is happening across rather than giving the solution. Because that is the main motto that you can do when you are meeting the community, when you are talking with the people. Because we believe that we are not in the position, or we don't have that much expertise or the knowledge that you can give a solution to them, because they are already they know that what they are doing and how they are connected with nature, with entire ecosystem. So today, rather than giving the what is indigenous knowledge, literature, and what is the history of that, I would like to talk about. I would like to ask you or give you the kind of nudge regarding that when you are talking about when you are in community, when you are in particular environment. So you were talking about you were seeing the river, you were seeing the forest, you were seeing the community landscape. So are you just taking the photographs? Are you just seeing them as an observer, or you are allowing them to talk behalf of themselves? Is river is narrative with you? Is the wind is blowing? Are you hearing that sound? Is that serene? So what is happening across forest when it is flooded or when it is drought? So what is happening with the community when they are seeing all this kind of transition and transformation? So, yeah. So, we'll open up with my three case studies that I have been working in 3 years. And we say, as an information art and information design practitioner, that we are a storyteller. And I think you guys are also, kind of storyteller of your own kind of identity. And you are giving us a fantastic story to the society because that is the agency, that is the ownership you have. And you can literally shape the culture of the people, how you are, kind of presenting yourself to your storytelling capacity. Looks like this. Okay, so when I was thinking how to pitch in this kind of event, so as I mentioned, I saw a lot of commonalities, and from my field also, I feel there are certain kind of extractivism in happening. So that extractivism happening because of we are very, very anthropocentric in approach, means we are very much human-centered. We are very much talking about ourselves. We are seeing ourselves, our fashion, our style. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do, but when you are in remote area, when you are going for the film, you should be more open. And we have seen this kind of, tendency that extraction is happening, that non-human life, always in the backdrop. That when you are going there, you are taking a photograph mountain in, beneath you, or you are, kind of postal area. So it's always been like that. But if we think, differently, if we bring certain kind of different understanding, so that extraction become the reciprocity. So then non-human entities become the agent with whom you are working, with whom they are becoming co-authority. So you are trying to narrate their journey as well. Similarly, when you are seeing the knowledge flow is in specifically in global south, if you are aware of, although we are democratic society and nation, but still knowledge flow is very much centralized. It is always top-down approach. There is very limited understanding of bottom-up approach that from community level how we are going to connect with the policies towards our central policy. So, so that is another kind of extractivism. And reciprocity would be done when we can co-create with the community. There are a lot of kind of examples are there. I will come to that point. When we actually work with communities and develop those kind of understanding, and definitely in Midway, you will see those standard examples as well. So, similarly, if you are telling a story, if you are talking about certain kind of experience, so what we do, that we are say for example, I'm talking about my children. So when they are developing a cheese master thesis, so obviously it's a master capstone. So they are developing the master capstone, and they have done an output, an artifact like maybe a zine or maybe a animation film or a graphic novel or something. So if they are not taking it forward in their future, in their career, then I feel it's very kind of shallow that they are not making the connection and not making any kind of transition or transformation in as a human being or as a career. So it is always kind of supposed to have carried forward to their professional life as well, that what kind of understanding you are bringing for your community perspective. It is not only a story, it is also a kind of helping to develop your human abilities, your human, your sensitivity. So those are the very important things you can develop through the reciprocity. Okay, so next slide, please. So coming to it's a bit dry, maybe theoretical shift, what we can do. So I'm talking about seed plants here because when you are in a remote area, when you are with communities, so it is very important to trust plurivers. So plurivers is a kind of it's very important for global south scholars, global south researchers and students. Plurivers talks about there is a single word. There is a single word, but in that word, lot of small words will fit you. So it doesn't mean that if you are wearing a kind of a very costly attire or dress, and others is coming some very, kind of not costly, expensive dress, it doesn't mean that they are not fitting. So everyone has their own worldview. Everyone is bringing their own understanding, and that is respected. So that's how the pluriverse works. So when we're talking about pluriverse, so it is not only that human-centric again, it should be otherwise with the people with whom they are marginalized people, with the flora, with the fauna, they don't have voice, but try to listen the unheard voice as well. It is relational ontology. There is another theory. Relational ontology is talking about that how, as a human being, how your existing understanding is related to the place. So, as I'm giving the example, if I'm in Himalayan region, so it is not only my relationship with my family, but with my children, but also what I'm the river, the mountain, the wind, the flora and fauna, the topography, the soil, the weather, everything, right, should be connected. We say it is immersive, or sometimes we say it is somatic, that you are experiencing everything with your all senses. Similarly, with the kinship, that here comes your indigenous understanding. So kinship is not only with your own properties, but it is also respecting other kinship with the land, with the insects, with the other non-human being, maybe being or non-being. But that kind of kinship could be there, and that is indigenous understanding. That indigenous understanding gives that kind of very robust relationship between you and between your nature, immediate nature. Next slide, please. So how we can do that? So again, as I mentioned before, that I'm not an expert. So rather, after this discussion, you can give me certain, kind of provocation that I can carry and I can discuss with my students. Similarly, I'm giving you a nudge. So it is, could be possible because in our program, we do in that way, that oral history. So when you are going there and meeting people, so what kind of discussion you are having, how you are developing that kind of rapport, because it's very much, it's not like one day you are going to community and you are asking and they are open up. So when I'm giving just a rough example, when I was in Anigulbi, that is opposite side of River Tungabhadra, right near Hampi. So I was in 2009-10, so for 3 years. So after 4 to 3 visits, they become kind of, we develop that emotional bond. So that is very important, that how you are developing your rapport and how you are taking care of the interview. Sometimes it is not at all interview kind of a questionnaire survey. It is just, you are just on your record with the permission definitely. You are just on your record and just talk about, tell me what happened today. Students say it is mundane research. So they keep on talking about this thing happened, that thing happened. So it is difficult to force them coming together, means after coming that, coding them, analyze them, it's a bit difficult. But when it is, we say it's an unstructured interview or open narrative, so they are talking about their entire legacy, their heritage, they are talking about what the ancestors used to do in that particular area, in that particular state. So this is, oral histories are very important, I think, as a media student as well. Then ecological storytelling. So when you are talking about ecological storytelling, you are not only concentrated on the human beings. So you are also seeing that how they respect the nature. So when you are, it's very common in India. Means we never thought of, or maybe all of you know. I believe all of you know, because it's Indian culture. If you go to your native or remote area, so it has leftover food. So you are keeping it for bird, you are keeping it for cow or street dogs, right? So that is the kind of relationship they are developing. Again, I'm going back to my Anigulbi experience. So it is very much leopard kind of prone area. But the accidents or all those things are very rare, and it is happening actually last 2 to 3 years because of human greed and encroachment of their habitats. Otherwise, I have been always talking with people who are like 80 years, 19 years, 90 years, kind of. They are staying there. They said it's always been like that after 6 o'clock in the evening, you cannot go beyond certain boundaries because they know that then the lepers will come, bears will come for drinking water and all. Similarly, beyond six in the morning, they means before 6 in the morning, they don't go to those places. So this kind of relationship, this kind of respecting each other's territory is very important, and that's how you can develop this kind of ecological storytelling. That's how different animals, different flora, fauna can come together and coexist rather than conflict. Similarly, digital archiving, when you are archiving after taking the data, what you are going to do, right? So you are making some stories, you are doing something with those stories, right? So when you are archiving, you have to have that kind of understanding that which kind of story you could be biased because it is not always our eyes, means our scanning. It could be their authorship also. It sometimes happens that they say something a bit contested because you have to be very, very sensitive. You say, kind of request me that please don't share this kind of incidents, keep it with you. So you couldn't say. So I know many stories, indigenous stories, like our Hindi, we said Gharelu Totka kind of thing, very much how it's given, generational knowledge. It in the, kind of modern science or modern medicine system, there is no existence of those things. If I tell anyone, they will laugh at me. But they strongly believe, and they said, yes, in generational way, we are following those kind of traditions. So you have to maintain that kind of respect or that kind of boundary that they don't want to open up. And if they have requested, you have to maintain those kind of respect and not to discuss. So then comes audience engagement. So as I mentioned that our students and you both are kind of doing the same kind of work. So how you are communicating those things with the audience, so there should be a transparency. There can be the ethics, because ethics have become very, very important right now, that how you are using the digital media, how you are using the social media ethically, that becomes very, very important. And normally when we go to the community, we always say that whatever you are taking a photograph, a recording or a video, always take the permission because that's our ethics. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I'll quickly take you through that what we have done so far to our, we normally say in short set lab, and through our studies that 3 places are there. One is in Anigundi, I have already mentioned. Another place is Auroville, and another place is near Dalibore. So we'll talk about next slide, please. Yes, so this is Bumkandar village near Dalibore, and this community is staying there for 200 years, and they don't have a particular farming system. Rather, they have their primitive hardware, they have pastures and all, and they're struggling with climate change, they're struggling with weather change, flooding, drought, and all those kind of natural issues. So when we went there, we have seen that indigenous knowledge again becomes very, very predominant, that how they use the how they use the pasture land, and how they develop their own ecosystem. They don't go normally with the other side of the forest. They are very much closely on. And if you see the photograph, means my students are there, so the river plays a very, very important role there. So because entire area is riverine area, valley area, and because of this river, lot of cities on tourism, and entire economy is based on river, and they also go for fishing and all those things. So when we went there, we saw this again this kind of dialogue, this kind of narrative we have developed, that how to see their again mundane life that become interesting, and how we can kind of develop or how we can explore their lifestyle. So this is just another kind of a first provocation I'm asking you. Maybe you may not be able to answer right now, but you can think about that. Can you develop a story that river is walking, you are having certain kind of sounds of river, or wind is blowing, you are pausing, you are taking a kind of pause, see and understand. So as a media student, how you can develop that kind of culture? We say to daily journaling that whatever you are seeing, whatever you are doing, you are just scribbling, you are taking points, or you are scribbling, you are drawing, you are sketching, anything. So can you develop that kind of journaling as a media student, and how you are going to communicate those kind of understanding? Next slide, please. So as you see that this is our exhibition, and multiple kind of media, as I said, we are media agnostic, multiple kind of immersive understanding, film and posters, research and things, board games, everything has happened. I'll come to this part later, but based on that thing, we have made our one publication that is in place. So maybe in 1 year we'll have that kind of what is ecological resonance, what is dissonance, what is happening. I'll be able to talk about all these things later. Next slide, please. So another case study is Orwell. I think a lot of you are you aware of Orwell? Or people are sitting there. How many of you are aware of Orwell? There is no hand. Oh, quite okay. Fantastic. So as you know, Auroville is a kind of a design hub, is a design kind of city, and if a cosmopolitan is the world city, we would say. So it is, but my lens is not again Auroville, but my lens is what kind of great effect Auroville can, kind of give toward your green region. It's called green belt. So the community people are having there, and how they are adjusted with the Aurovillian model. So when there we have seen lot of work towards soil irrigation, and if anyone is aware of, the entire region was barren. They have literally made the living up there and developed the afforestation, developed the indigenous plants, again regrowth, because it was all devastated because of coastal erosion and subtle cyclones. So a lot of things are happening with alternative energy, with solar energy, with soil pollution, and so that's what it's become it's a kind of a knowledge hub. So again, when we met here, mainly the self-help group of women over there, so they are very much kind of eager to come in those kind of self-help groups, but because not of money, but for their cultural involvement, their knowledge transfer, because they are also bringing a lot of indigenous knowledge through their artwork, through their hands-driven work and the different products they are making. So they have that kind of freedom for that. So again, there is a kind of provocation for you based on this discussion that if you even go to or ever go to Auroville, so can you read or can you archive those kind of practices? Can you archive those kind of storytelling? Can you archive the indigenous knowledge? How indigenous knowledge is kept in modern kind of media and storytelling? So can you bring those kind of things? So that's my question for you. Next slide, please. Yeah, and I'm fighting. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of design intervention. The picture can very hazy. So no, we will say that lot of greens, lot of retail. I'm just forgetting the name. That it is intertwined to each other. For advanced version of Zine and board game and storytelling, small card game. Lot of things we have done together over there based on their understanding. And again, we are having another publication based on that. So I'll come to this part again to reiterate. Next slide, please. So this is my most favorite because I have been there for 9 times. Other places I have been there for 3 to 4 times kind of thing. So it is, anyone is fascinating. Everyone knows about something. Have you been there? Yes. So whoever has done in 9 times, whenever I have gone, I never feel that I have not explored a new place in Hampi. It is so gorgeous, so fascinating because of its rivers, its rock, its ancient culture. And Aringandi is a 17th century settlement in here because it used to be Vijayanagar dynasty's first capital. So when we have been there, we have seen all these kind of narratives that people are bringing. Means I will take another hour if I talk about Anegundi, because a lot of things are happening there, like ecotourism, developing of the tourism-related economics. So my students have done a lot of giving the proposals for those kind of things. So I don't think I have that much time today. So again, my kind of provocation that can you make a kind of community-related mapping that you can co-author with the community members, so that you can talk about the memories of community people, so that you can bring their kind of emotion, interactive mapping. Can you do those things? Next slide, please. So yeah, so we have developed toolkit from those understanding. We have developed board games. We have developed book chapter and publication and a lot of other things. I'm not going into that. Next slide, please. Yeah, coming to the synthesizing, if I synthesize all three kinds of understanding that I'm having since last so many years. So first, we are talking about non-human agency. So when you are going as a media student rather than as a human-centered, kind of design or this setting, so how non-human agency you are bringing. So community authorship or ownership or co-authorship is very, very important, because when you are talking with them, you are bringing their ideas, you are talking rather than extractivism. You are also talking about their aspirations. So very small example. Last year, when I went with my UG students, they are very much, kind of freshers and first year. So we thought over there, when we meet one self-help group, that we will paint a wall for them. But because of rainy season and all, it didn't happen. Then, but they themselves, they developed certain crowns, origami crown, certain picture, draw and all for their children. Few couple of ammas there. So they are Shah Rukh Khan's and Akshay Kumar's fans. So they made a portrait with hand sketching that they are with Shah Rukh Khan, they are with Akshay Kumar. So I think that kind of connection, that kind of emotional bond is a really, really, kind of a good pointer when you can go back, and it is not very extractive in that. Yes. So then every day the reciprocity again that I already discussed about the mundane culture, mundane observation. It could be mundane, but as I mentioned that I have seen many students, they are there, but suddenly they got it figured what to talk about, what to explore, what to kind of narrate. And living an oral archive, so definitely when you are having this kind of understanding, if you can develop that connection, so archives will automatically develop. You don't have to think that, oh, I have to make an archive, I have to make a digital archive, and the media says I have to do this. Because emotionally or as a human being, you will definitely sense that. But next slide, please. I have 5 more minutes time, or 2 more minutes. I can panic. Oh. So yeah, so I think this scale I have already discussed. So I believe as an information art student and media student, so your next work should be again. I'm not telling that this is the kind of work or worry from me that I'm giving you, but I feel it should be that's more immersive, that you should listen more. You should situate yourself, because it is very, very plain here. Because when you are talking about community should be geographically located. So it should be situated. They should become your co-author, because I'm not talking about co-authoring in writing a paper. Co-author means when you are ideating, when you are making certain kind of co-creative design or board game, they should have the agility to tell you that, hey, this is not good. You should think about that way. So we got many this kind of small, kind of figures, small, kind of fine-tunings from our community. That based on that, we develop our board game. Based on that, we develop many artifacts. Then definitely archive and circulate, that they should have the agency of that kind of archiving. Next slide, please. Okay, so I would not go through the slides because we have time crush. Next slide. Yeah, so if I spend means I was thinking while coming that if we can have a collaborative session, because across we are having collaborative, it's called COEL, collaborative organization, international labs and all. So if we can collaborate something, then what will happen? So first thing is we could shift our subject rather than human. You can bring the in the transdisciplinary way. You can think about if the subject is river, if the subject is wind, what will happen? Then shifting your method. So rather than going and taking the photographs and writing, taking the interview, just observe that. Just it's called immersion. So see, feel, and sometimes you don't have to talk at all. Just observe that what is happening across. And next step is towards your archiving, because your media student definitely will go for archiving. For us, it is output. So how you are going to develop the ethics of archiving, how you are giving the authenticity. Next slide, please. Yeah, I will end my talks here with this quote that I'm very attached to, that the landscape is not a passive backdrop to human drama. It is the primary narrator. To decolonize our stories, we must relearn the literacy of the land. Because in global South perspective, right now we are talking about decolonizing the method. But storytelling is a very, very rich kind of indigenous knowledge system that you can bring in methodology, and that become the main aspect of your decolonial methodology, and that you can bring for the betterment of the society. Yeah. Thank you so much. Hope it is not that much boring, but I understand it's the last hour of the session. And yes, and then for the question, I will answer.